Okay, so I will be pretty busy through this next week. I noticed, and I need content to give to you guys. I don't want to take was it like 12 days off like I did in between reviews the last time. So I'm going to be recording a couple of reviews tonight, and then slowly uploading them throughout just the week and stuff, just to give you guys some content. So first up on the docket is Barry Season 4. This will be the first one released. This will be released tonight. And so it just ended last night on HBO Max. It coincided with the end of Succession. I haven't watched Succession, yada, yada, yada. Barry has consistently been one of my favorite TV shows in general. I started watching it back in 2021 just off of a whim because I really loved Bill Hader. I went through like a big Bill Hader phase at the time. I still do love him, but like it's not as like much of a obsession as it was back then. And I really was intrigued by the premise of the show. I just need something to watch, and I binged the first 2 seasons like that. I mean, it was just like immediate. I grabbed onto it. I loved the show. The first 2 seasons were really, really great. And then last year we got the 3rd season after a 3-year hiatus, I think it was, because of the pandemic. And then this year we have gotten its 4th and final season. So this is going to be a longer review. I'm going to be talking about my thoughts briefly on the show as a whole, and then we delving deep into Season 4. A spoiler warning for Season 4 and the entire series of Barry throughout this entire thing. I don't feel like I could get my thoughts out as genuinely, if not spoiling a couple of things. So the original run of Barry is really great. Like, don't get me wrong, I love the first 2 seasons. It's so creative, and it was really awesome to see Bill Hader tackle this oddball concept that could have just been this dark comedy that it was in the first couple of episodes, and morph it into something about Hollywood in general, and the line between the film industry and like organized crime, and how many parallels there are, and the incredible character work between not only Barry Berkman, but Gene Cousineau and Sally Reed and Hank, especially NoHo Hank, and Fuchs. All of it was really, really great, and I loved seeing the intricate stories told throughout each season. Each season has its own identity and is not necessarily like a different show, but they're very distinct, and I love that Bill Hader and Alec Berg, I think that's his name, is the other co-creator of this show. They both took a bunch of risks throughout Barry and really pushed the envelope with what they could get away with and what they were willing to give to the audience without them suspending so much belief from, what these characters' decisions would be, yada, yada, yada. So that original run, it was hilarious, some of the funniest comedy we've gotten on TV, and it had the emotional moments. Like, it was still a comedy first for the most part, but it still had those beats that would lead to the very dramatic and very well told 3rd season. I think the 3rd season of Barry, honestly, is one of the greatest seasons of television I've ever seen. I think it is something that should be studied and should be analyzed as much as something like Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul. It is that on that level. From the episode with the motorcycle chase to all of the beach where you can see all the people that Barry's killed, and him trying to redeem himself in his eyes, even though he is an irredeemable monster. We are still seeing his journey through other characters, which is another thing that Season 3 introduced, is putting Barry in the backseat and giving the supporting cast more stuff to do and giving them more character development. We got a lot of Gene Cousineau in that series. We also got a relationship between Cristobal and NoHo Hank that I really loved, that really takes a big climactic ending at the end of Season 3. At the end of Season 3, everything is fucked for most of the characters. Gene Cousineau, while he does get revenge on Barry for killing Janice, he is still kind of just stuck in his life and doesn't, is still reeling, from a big emotional wound that Barry left. Barry's in prison. Fuchs is also in prison. NoHo Hank just went through this completely traumatic experience of trying to saving Cristobal and watching all of his friends get mutilated and die. and also Sally Reed, who gets her show canceled and crumbles as a character because of her having to kill the motorcycle gang member out of self-defense. So, jump to season 4, and we get to see Barry in prison. We get to see what NoHo, Hank, and Cristobal are up to, and we get to see Gene kind of thriving as this masterclass-esque teacher, which we got in the 3rd season as well, but he is thriving in that sense also at the beginning of the 4th season, because Barry's in jail. He feels safe. He has a good relationship with his son. He is very much on edge because he thinks Barry is going to I don't know, not leave, like escape prison and find him and kill him. So, the first two episodes of Barry season 4, I always forget that each season kind of uses the first 2 episodes as kind of a breather, as kind of a buffer between really traumatic events that happen. I think that while they're not weak necessarily, they're still episodes that aren't as interesting as the rest of the season. They're not the meat of the story here. They're just kind of setting up what's going to happen in the rest of the season. That happens with every season of Barry. It happened season 3, season 2, season 1, all of that. And that's what we got here. They're not bad. There are some really funny moments in them, but they weren't landing as much as I wanted them to, and I think they are definitely my least favorites of this season. However, they're still better than a lot of other, even good TV shows' best episodes. So, and then you get to episode 3, and I don't know, I was kind of thinking to myself, is this going to be the season where Barry kind of falls off the rails? Is this going to be the season where Barry takes a little bit of a dip in quality, and that dramatic turn that they took in season 3 maybe isn't going to pay off in the best way? However, it paid off in spades. The 3rd episode of this series is one of my favorite, of this season is one of my favorite of the entire series. Not only because the ending is one of the funniest bits in the entire series, with Fred Armisen's character coming in and playing this really, really awful assassin. And Guillermo del Toro's in this episode, and he's great. Just so many really wonderful moments and wonderful shots, and incredible, incredible acting from NoHo Hank's actor. I always forget his name. If you haven't noticed, I'm very bad with actors' names, but that's neither here nor there. What was I talking about? NoHo Hank's acting in this episode in particular should win him an Emmy. This is prime television acting. This is just some masterclass work on how many emotions he rips from this one performance, this one specific scene where he's talking to Cristobal. It is heart-wrenching, and it is very engaging, and I really, really loved it. It was phenomenal. And it carries over to the 4th episode as well, which is also really great. The 4th episode is where kind of everything comes into a head. It's the mid-season arc, and it again, everything goes to shit for almost every character. A lot of things really happen. I don't want to spoil too much, but there are moments in this episode that really, really had me reeling as a Barry fan. And I kind of forgot that this is the last season and characters are going to die. And then it was very jarring to be like, oh, he's dead, but oh wait, no, this is the last season. Yeah, I forgot. And then, so at the end of episode 4, Barry escapes from prison and asks Sally Reed to leave with him. He ratted on Fuchs, he ratted on NoHo Hank, and he basically betrayed Fuchs in his eyes. So Sally ends up going with him, and we see a massive time jump. Now, throughout the beginning episodes, we normally get kind of cold opens with really wide shots of something. On season 3 it was the beach. With this season, it's this field, and we think we're seeing Barry. Sometimes we see Barry as a young child, and then it's intercut with this other kid we don't really know, and then we end up finding out that that's Barry and Sally's child, and we see a massive time jump. We go 10 years in the future. I think it's 10 or 11 years in the future, something like that. Barry has basically held Sally Reed hostage and had a kid with her, and is completely closed off from the rest of the world. NoHo Hank had Cristobal killed and is now reeling from that and living in denial as a businessman. Fuchs has left prison and is becoming the Raven, which is like the stupid moniker he came up for himself. He's kind of embodying that. He's all these tattoos and a gang now. And Gene Cousineau ran away. So all the characters are very different from when we last saw them, and I think this time jump is going to be the biggest point of contention among Barry fans. I think that it works in some ways, and it also doesn't work. Like, it's plausible. It is a sensible direction that I think they took, and I think that paid off really well in other episodes, and even in the episodes that they're in. Like, these are really quality episodes, but I think my only gripe with Season 4 is this time jump. It messes with the flow of the series a little bit, and I don't think was as necessary, if that makes sense. I think they introduced it too early. If I think they could have pushed the mid-season arc a little bit more, and we could have gotten a little bit more time with the characters how we knew them as. I do like the time jump. I do like that they explore that and go into that storyline. I just think it happens a little bit too early in the series, in the season. But that is my one and only gripe with this season, just because of how really well it lands on its feet and ends. I think episode 6, the one where Sally, almost murders this dude who's trying to hook up with her. That episode, I'm a little bit iffy on. It probably is my least favorite of the season, if it's not episode 1 or 2. Like, that one, take it or leave it. I think it's a bit too slow and a bit too plotting and a bit too grim. I think it loses that sense of, like, spontaneity and on your feetness that Barry usually has. I don't know. It was just one of the weaker episodes of the entire series, but once we push past that and get to Barry manipulating his son and convincing himself that he's a Christian now and that he has to redeem himself in the eyes of God by raising this family, it's some really, really great stuff. One, I have to commend all of the actors for just putting out really Emmy-winning, deservedly so Emmy-winning performances, if that makes any sense. And just the direction and writing from Bill Hader and Alex Berg is just so on point and so much better than it has any right to be. Like, this show is everything in its presentation, because while the story is so interesting on it by itself, it's that presentation and the way they show it to us and the themes introduced and all the complexities about redemption and how far you're willing to go to redeem yourself from doing horrible things, and if you can ever redeem Barry. It's all so great, and the way it's presented to us is just absolutely perfect. And then everything kind of comes to a head in episodes 7 and 8. I loved episode 7, especially some of the comedic bits in this one. It's really, really great. And the final episode was just a really, 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 really well done send-off to the rest of the show. It ended NoHo Hank's storyline with a really poetic and poignant ending scene for him, where he gets shot and dies in the arms of the crystal ball statue. I thought that entire sequence, the acting from NoHo Hank's character, it really, really was perfection. And I love that we got to see Fuchs care for Barry one last time before disappearing into the darkness. A motif they use a lot in this show of going into the darkness. I really like that we get to see that recurring through the series. I like that they stick to that motif. And I really, really loved that Barry doesn't get what he wants in the end. It seems like he does. It seems like this big heroic thing that he's doing, but under the surface, you're realizing, like, no, he was the real villain of this story and is the reason why all of these people's lives are extremely, extremely fucked up. And actually, he kind of does get what he wants in the end, because I'll get to that. Gene Cousineau he's back, and he's getting accused of murdering Janice and manipulating Barry into being this anti-hero who gets wrongfully accused, and he ends up shooting Barry at the very end of the show because Barry tries to find Sally and his son John at his house. Sorry for the recap part, is a little messy. I'm just kind of remembering everything that's happening here. But that point, and then they jump probably 6 or so years in the future, where John is a young teenager and Sally's raising him, and it's very much made a point that Sally is a bad mother. Like, it's, you know, understandable because of all the things she's gone through and how much she has just lost herself being a hostage of Barry, and it's made a point that she's just an awful mother to John. And we get, after the time jump, we get to see her actually becoming a nurturing mother and being who she wants to be and shielding John from really knowing who his father really was. And then another aspect of the time jump is that they want to make a movie about Barry's the whole ordeal, and we get to see parts of that movie at the very end because John's friend shows him that, and it's really, really great. One, it's very funny. It's funny that Jim Cummings is in it, but also that it makes Barry look like a hero. So he gets what he wants in the end, and his son thinks of him as a hero because that's the only thing he can remember him by, and also he has this movie that's telling him he's a hero, and it all really sews up everything really nice together, and shows how Hollywood can romanticize killers and make them, and contort the story and really affect real people's lives. I don't know, I just really thought it was all very well done and smartly written. This season of Perry was great. If my rambling doesn't mean anything to you guys, at the very end, this was a great season of television. It was smart, it was depressing, it was very funny, it was immensely well acted. Some of the best acting in the entire show is found within this season, and some of the best direction. It took the show in a really dark and depressing kind of world, but it did so in a way that was always intriguing and never like just brooding. It was like bleak and really, I don't know, you could not keep your eyes away from what was happening, even as the characters' lives slowly but surely got cut down. So I'm going to give Perry Season 4 an A. I really, really enjoyed this season of Barry. It's not perfect. It's not absolutely perfect, but it is very close to being so. So yeah, that is one of I think my first standalone season review, which is cool. I didn't think I would talk for almost 20 minutes about this season, but yeah, I had a lot to say about it. All that was unscripted, so this will be the first of the videos, of the reviews that I will give to you guys, and I will see you in the next one.